Okay, today our topic is word problems, so things that we all definitely enjoy, sarcastically. Okay, so our goal today is I can set up a quadratic equation from a written description of a real life situation. So obviously, because we're in quadratics, we're looking for quadratic things, situations, and we have to be able to make a quadratic equation so that we can then algebraically manipulate it to get the answers that we want, the information. So section 3.2 in your textbook, and let's take a look. When we're looking at word problems, and specifically quadratic word problems, the first step that we have to do is determine what you're being asked to find. Obviously, you have to know what you need to find and give some kind of let statement. Especially a let statement if you're defining variables. The next step would be find a multiplication relationship and set up an equation. Now, the reason you have to find a multiplication relationship is because that is the way that we get our variables by multiplying them together to set up a quadratic function. Okay, the next step would be to expand, simplify, make one side 0, and solve. Okay, and in most cases, when we're talking about word questions, most cases you're going to solve by using quadratic formula. You possibly could use factoring, but as I said, in most cases, it will be the quadratic formula. Then what you need to do is you need to check that your answer makes sense, especially in the context of the question. So if you were finding the height, for instance, of a flower, obviously, if your answer turned out to be, 8 meters, the chances are it doesn't really make sense in that situation. And then make sure when you're doing word questions that you're also providing a concluding sentence that sums up what you have found. Now, what we're going to do with our word questions, we're going to use the grass approach. As you know, this is on the bulletin board, as well as this whole format allows us to, if we're doing this on a test, to get more marks, because even if I couldn't solve the whole thing by filling in the chart, it allows me to at least demonstrate that I know something. Okay, so I have here the question, and the question says the sum of two numbers is 21 and their product is 90. Write a quadratic equation and then use it to find two numbers. Okay, so let's look at what are we given here. Well, we're given obviously that we have a sum and we're told that that sum is 21. We're told that we have a product and that product is 90. And we're not given two numbers. We have to solve for two numbers. So required would be, they want us to make a quadratic equation. And they also want us to find two numbers, solve for two numbers. So let's go see what we need to do with this. Now you remember doing a lot of this in grade 9, because in grade 9 you were expected to make let statements. So we know a couple different things. The first thing we're going to look at is this sum of 21. Sum of 21 means I have a number and another number, and when I add them together, I equal 21. And if you remember from grade 9, we would let x represent one number, and the other number, we would use this relationship that we just wrote down to express it as with the variable x as well. So we're going to let one number be x, and the other number B. And if we take this to the side, so if we have x, so we're going to solve for y, so we're going to subtract x from both sides. And when we do that, we get 21 minus x. So the other number, we're going to have it as 21 minus x. Okay, so I have my let statements. Now my solution. Okay, now my solution, and remember we're doing quadratics and we have to come up with some kind of multiplication situation here. Well, they tell us the product is 90. So using this information that the product is 90, we know that if we take our first number and multiply it by the second number, that we are to end up with that equaling 90. So now it's just a matter of expanding and simplifying and solving. So we're going to distribute that x through, so we end up with 21x minus x squared equals 90. And we're going to get everything in the nice order that it should be. We're going to subtract 90 from, we will subtract 90, not quite yet. 21x, and we have a minus 90 equals 0. So we have our equation equal to 0. And to be honest with you, I don't like the negative in front of the x squared, so I'm going to take out a negative. Actually, I'm going to multiply the whole equation here by a negative 1. So I end up with x squared minus 2x plus 90, and that would be 0 still, because if I divide, or if I multiply 0 by negative 1, I still get 0. Now this one I can factor. It might take a little bit to get it, but it's 6 times 15. So I end up with two numbers that multiply to give me 90, and their sum equals 21. So x minus 6, x minus 15, each one of those equals 0, so that tells me then x is 6 and or x is 15. Then what I need to do with that, I'm not finished, that is just my x value, so then I would have to continue it over here, and using this relationship from above, I can figure out what my y, or in other words, my other number is. So if x equals 6, then we know 21 minus 6 equals 15. And if x equals 15, I know that 21 minus our 15 is going to equal 6. So what we have found here now is our statement. So we found the two numbers. The two numbers are 6 and 15. So you can either put it therefore, the two numbers are 6 and 15. Okay, so that's the first kind of question with that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stop here and start another question. And so it might take you a few days to get through all these videos dealing with the questions.